Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. Welcome to Exceptional Women with Grit, where we believe in interviewing amazing and dynamic women around the world who are doing phenomenal things. And tonight we have no shortage of guests with Miss Caren Gabriel. How are you doing, Lee? Before we even bring her on, let's go ahead and chat back with Lee. How's everything going your way, Lee?
Hey, everything's going great over here. It's a great day outside today, a little bit warmer than yesterday. So, it's all good.
That is awesome. How about that? We are almost through the month of March and in
Wow.
2023. Can you believe that?
That's the hard thing to believe. I think almost at the beginning of every month, Valerie and I say, you know what? The month is almost over.
Before it even starts, right?
Before it even started, yes.
Oh my goodness. But what I tell you, this year, March has just been exceptional, at least for me. And with all of the events in terms of Women's History Month and just exemplifying women around the world, I'm just excited.
Oh, good, good, good. How things in your neck of the woods?
Things are going well, much better. I don't know if you would remember, but the last time I told you about the whole leak situation, I finally got that wrapped up. So, feeling like I'm getting back to a space of normality in
Okay.
the business and in life. So, feeling like I'm getting my legs back under me again.
Right. Great. You back in the house?
Right, exactly. And at one point in time, my son was really, excited about staying in hotels. Now he's just kind of like, well, when is it over? Can we get back? Like, really?
They,
He wants to get
they
back to
can get
his space, right?
it. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and they just sold their house.
Hmm.
4 or 5 bedrooms or what have you, and they're waiting to move into their new house, and so now they're in 821 square feet with 4 people.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Can
Yes.
you feel the love, right?
Yes. Yeah. 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 So he can't wait for his house to be ready.
I know that's right. It's nothing like laying your head in your own bed.
For sure.
Well, I'm so excited tonight for our guest, Miss Caren Gabriel. So, again, you guys, if you are tuning in to Women with Grit, feel free to like us and share us. Join us on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Go ahead and grab a friend, grab your favorite beverage and food of choice, and join us as we talk to Miss Caren Gabriel. But before we bring her on, I just want to give you guys a little bit of knowledge about this amazing woman that we have before you, okay? So, Caren Gabriel is the president and chief executive officer of Ascend Federal Credit Union, headquartered in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And under her leadership, assets have grown from 960.3 million in 2004 to more than 3.9 billion dollars. With 28 financial centers and more than 257,000 members, Ascend is the largest credit union in Middle Tennessee and one of the largest in Tennessee. In 2006, Ms. Gabriel superheaded a massive rebranding campaign that included a name change to set Ascend apart from its competitors. And in doing so, she launched an aggressive branding strategy that includes new and remodeled facilities, an 80,000 square foot corporate headquarters, and an increased focus on sales and service culture. Over the past 18 years, she has orchestrated annual member returns totaling more than $100 million. And to help ensure the viability of credit unions nationwide, she organized an employee campaign that resulted in approximately 79% of Ascend employees supporting the Credit Union Legislative Act Committee via payroll deduction. Ms. Gabriel holds a bachelor's degree in marketing from the University of Alabama and a doctorate of jurisprudence degree from the University of Tennessee College of Law. From 1985 to 2004, she served Ascend as the executive vice president and general counsel, and in 2004, she was chosen by the board to be president and chief executive officer. Ms. Gabriel currently serves as the CUNA Mutual Group Board of Directors, the Nature Conservatory of Tennessee's Board of Trustees, and the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt Advisory Board. And in addition, Ms. Gabriel is a former chairman of the Tennessee Credit Union League and has served on a variety of community boards, including the Red Cross and the Rotary Club. So without further ado, we would love to introduce to you our guest tonight, Ms. Caren Gabriel.
Hey, roll
Amen.
tide.
That's right. Just a few more basketball games. Who knows? Yeah. Good to see you, Lee. And Sherelle, this is the first time I've met you, so very nice to meet you. And thank you for inviting me. I've seen some of your shows, and you really have had some amazing women on there. I hope I measure up just a little bit. So
Well, we are
Yeah,
so
you're gonna be
elated to
just
have you.
fine.
Thank
good.
you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time. So we love to kick off the show by hearing from our guests and hearing from you. And so our favorite question to ask is to tell us your unique story of grit.
All right. Well, I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, and I had a loving mother and father who were really, really hard workers. They believed in education, they believed in hard work, and they believed in paying your dues. Um, so my parents always encouraged education. Um, and so my first thought of what I wanted to do was I thought I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. And one of the first courses I took in college was, I think it was PE for the elementary school teacher. And after I took that course, I decided maybe that wasn't where my calling was supposed to be. So I finally talked my dad into letting me go to the University of Alabama. My first year, I went to the University of Alabama in Huntsville. He let me go to Tuscaloosa. I ended up majoring in marketing, and then after University of Alabama, I went to law school at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. My first job out of law school was with Pan Am World Services, which was a support contractor at Arnold Air Force Base here in Tullahoma, and worked there for 2.5 years. And I got a phone call one night from the CEO of the credit union. Then it was called AEBC, Federal Credit Union. And she called and said, I would like to put an attorney on staff. Would you be interested? At that time, very few credit unions of any size were headed up by a female. And I did not know her at the time, and I was satisfied with my job, but I went to talk to her one night, and long story short, I've been here for 38 years now. You don't really go to law school to work in a credit union, but you never know where hard work and a little bit of luck and a lot of people on your side will take you.
So, Karen, I don't think I realized that you had the roll tide and the conflictual orange.
I do,
That
I
probably
do. And I tell my story that I always, UT was always my number two team
okay,
after Alabama because, Huntsville's 10 miles over the border from Tennessee, and all my
right,
family is from Tennessee. But when
okay.
I went to law school, I figured out how much they disliked Alabama people. So that's when
Mm.
they kind of went down on my list after that. They didn't treat me very nicely.
Oh gosh, yes, there are definitely hard feelings between the two. I can tell
Yes.
you that much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as you think about you graduated from Alabama. How difficult was it for you to decide to go to Tennessee for law school versus somewhere else?
It really wasn't because, like I said, at that time, Tennessee was sort of my second home. All of my grandparents lived here, my aunts and uncles. I had an uncle that went to law school at UT several years before that, so it was really sort of a natural type thing for me.
Okay.
And I was glad to go. It was a good experience.
Got,
When
got.
you talk about the grit part, I guess this would be a good place to talk about, unless you want to talk about it somewhere else, my journey into the CEO role, because that probably took more grit for
Yes.
me than a lot of other things. So, the CEO that I mentioned that hired me, um, she wasn't she wasn't all that invested in succession planning as we do today. And she really didn't give me a lot of opportunity to interact with the board. So she retired with pretty much short notice. And so I had to make a pitch to a board of 8 men and one woman, and I did not know them all that well, and say, you need to pick me as the next president and CEO. I put together an extensive portfolio um, and said, this is my resume, these are the things I've done, this is what I would propose to do if you were to choose me as the next CEO. And basically had to do a sales pitch for myself, and that was probably not in my comfort zone at the time. But I did. They decided not to go for an outside search, and I've just been very blessed in the last 18 years.
So, and so you have this experience where you go and make the pitch to become CEO. Um, as you think back to that time frame, what would you tell now? Now you have all this experience since then. What would you tell yourself from today's experiences? What would you have told yourself, 19, 20 years ago when you were making this pitch about how to navigate this journey?
I would have tried to have more self confidence, I think, at the time. I think you gain that with years of experience. Um, I was really nervous about doing that and trying to sell myself. I really never had to do that before. And so, probably, I would tell myself to try to do things to instill more confidence in yourself at the time. And, looking back on it now, sometimes I'm kind of amazed I even um, put my hand up and said, pick me. Because, I was a lot younger then, a lot less experience. It's just one of those things. It's kind of like if you don't do it now, you may never have the chance to do it again. And it's all worked out now. I've had a wonderful career.
Sir, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. I think that is so impactful. Just the nature of having confidence and yourself to be able to go after it and become your advocate when the need arose to do so. Can you tell us about some self-limiting beliefs that you felt or found that you had to overcome along the way?
Well, I think it's just, um, do I really have it in me? Am I smart enough? Am I tough enough? Can I do the things that make me uncomfortable? And we all know you have to do those things in your career to take yourself outside of that comfort zone. Am I willing to do that? Um, can I do it? I think that, once I thought about the job, and even after I got in the job, I do believe that many people, I didn't really know what to call it at the time, but that imposter syndrome, that um, you get in a job or a place and you feel, do I really deserve to be here? I think that crept in a lot at the beginning, but I didn't know what to call it at that time, and I think you read a lot about that now. So it's I probably really didn't know whether I had it in me at that time, and then as you get into it, you realize, hey, I can do this, and you believe you're doing a good job, you believe you're doing the right thing for the mission of your employer, and so it's all worked out.
And I think that is so important. We had a guest, Ebonier, on our last season who talked about overcoming imposter syndrome as a woman executive in IT. And she went, deep and talked about how even for her, the journey persists. It wasn't something that she felt like she had completely arrived to, but that it's something that is an ongoing work and ongoing, precedence that it took specifically with her as well. As you
That's
think,
really true because as I'm in this job, I still can go into a room of my peers of large credit union um, CEOs, and still most of them are men of the larger credit unions. There are more women than there used to be, but when you go in as one of the few women CEOs, it makes you stop and think about, do I deserve to be here? Am I as smart as these other people? So yeah, it persists, I think, and I found though that it goes with a lot of people. It's not just women; it's men have go through the same thing.
mm-hmm.
But it's nice to have a name that goes with it because early on I really didn't understand what I was feeling at that time.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so, what do you tell people if someone, if you're mentoring somebody or having coffee with someone and they told you, hey, this is how I feel when I walk into a room. What would you tell them to help them get over it or get past it?
Yeah, I think one of the things, I think that you just have to do things that um, aren't always comfortable and not always difficult. I can think about so many things through my career. One of the things I think about is early on, I wasn't the most comfortable at public speaking in front of big groups of people. But the more you did it, I think the more comfortable you were with doing that. And I think it's just like that with anything. Walking into a room and raise your hand, you think maybe it's a stupid question, but no, raise your hand. 99 times out of 100, it's not going to be a stupid question. And even if it is, there are a lot of other people that ask stupid questions. So um, just go in there and be willing to have a few failures. Find your mentors and ask them, what do you think? What did I do wrong? What did I do right? Um, and just continue to, I keep saying this, get outside of your comfort zone because I don't believe you're going to be better and grow if you don't.
That is so impactful as well. And when you think about those who have inspired you along the way, whether it's family, friends, you talked about mentors. We speak a lot, especially on Women with Grit, with about just how important it is to have that team of support or people who champion your success. So, who are those individuals that have inspired you along your way?
I would say first on the list would be my parents. Um, they were really hard workers. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, but my dad was a really hard worker who had a job that he really didn't care for, but he worked in his entire career. He came home at 4:30 from that job, had dinner, and went to the wood shop, and basically had another career after that. education. That's always important to be a continuous learner. Um, some of my mentors were obviously the previous female CEO because she did a lot of things as a woman CEO in the 80s and 90s, and was one of the first to do some of the things in credit unions that they weren't allowed to do before, and then regulations changed and they were. So things like having a checking account, having an IRA, having an ATM. This credit union was one of the first to do that, and we were headquartered in small town Tullahoma, Tennessee, and it was because of her foresight, I think. So she definitely was a mentor, and she was someone that I understood you have to take a risk to be able to be successful. Another individual that was a mentor for me was a man by the name of Tom Gaines, who was the CEO of the Tennessee Credit Union League. I saw how he worked with the board, and that was really my first experience on how probably best is for a CEO to work with and for a board of directors. And I'll always be grateful to him for kind of setting that example for me. He never knew he was a mentor for me, but he definitely was.
So, Karen, as you think about your career and your ascension at Ascend to CEO role, what's your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, as Lee knows, I only have about 2.5 more weeks here as CEO, and then the torch is passed to a very capable successor who I hope to have been a good mentor to. But for my legacy, I don't know. I just hope that I have really fulfilled the credit union mission, and that is to make the financial lives of our members and our communities a little bit better, um, to provide free financial education to our members and to our employees, and to make the employees' lives better. Um, as the CEO, there's always a balance between doing what you need to do for the employees, doing what you need to do for the members, and doing what you need to do for the organization to be sure it's safe and sound well into the future. So I hope that I'm remembered as doing all those things, but doing it with a confident but humble attitude. Um, there's so many people around me that deserve, um, you know, some of the success that I have had, because you can't do it alone. I'm a firm believer in your team, having the right team around you, hiring people that are smarter than you, hiring people that have the skill sets that you don't have. Um, and I give my team and all the members of the Ascend team and the board of directors a lot of credit for that. I've just been lucky enough to steer the ship for a while.
I love that. In the space of just being able to acknowledge your team and acknowledge those that contribute to the overall mission. And I really appreciate the fact that you talked about how throughout the journey of your tenure as CEO, you remained on par with your mission. Now, when you think about your personal mission or even the mission that helps to govern and navigate you through life, what would you say that looks like for you?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to that that challenge that all people have, but I think particularly women have, and that is work-life balance and how you navigate that. I mean, as a woman, I wanted to be a good mother and now a good grandmother. Um, and at the same time, I wanted to be a good CEO. And, I know that all parents um, are conflicted from time to time with work life balance, but there's definitely always be some mom guilt that you have to navigate through. And I don't think there's any person that can do it all. I think sometimes your career um, wins out on a certain day or days, but then on other days your family will win out. And so, as my children have grown up now, and now they're two out of the three are parents themselves. I look back, I ask them, do you feel like you missed out on too much because of my career? And they definitely say that they didn't, and they're appreciative of what my career has been able to do for them. Um, and so I just hope that's sort of what people remember me for.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you start thinking with grandkids, and they get to still see their grandmother in a position before you're retiring as CEO of a $4 billion
Mm-hmm.
organization. It definitely helps take the limiters off of them.
Yes.
They're all pretty little right now, but maybe someday they'll want to listen to my story, or when my
Mhm.
kids are telling my story. But it's just I've just been so lucky. I've worked really hard. Don't get me wrong. You have to work hard and you have to sacrifice, um,
Mhm.
but you also have to have a little bit of luck and some people around you that give you a shot at it.
Mhm. Karen, there are companies that say, "Hey, we're trying to figure out how to promote women and get women to the C-suite." Um, what are some things that, if you were advising a company as to what, a couple of things that they could do to help foster an environment for women to have success? What are a couple of those things that you would advise?
Yeah, I would say for these companies to really be intentional about looking for women that have the characteristics of being a high achiever. And maybe they haven't come forth yet to say, pick me, I can do it. Um, Maybe they need someone to say, we see something in you that we think you need to think about, and encourage that with education, with conferences, with inviting them to meetings that maybe they wouldn't otherwise be invited to events that they wouldn't otherwise be invited to. Um, and I think with those kinds of things and being really intentional about it, we can do better in the future to ensure that women climb the corporate ladder. And we continue to see women in the C-suite.
Back on mute.
Gotta love that mute. See,
No, yeah.
I said that is just so, incredibly powerful, especially when it comes to the nature of hard work and sacrifice, but at the same time, be willing to manage work life balance. So, believe it or not, Karen, we are halfway through our segment, and this has definitely been phenomenal. We're going to pull you backstage, give you an opportunity to grab a drink of water or whatever the beverage is of your choice, and then we'll come back up. I already see that we've got several questions from our viewers that they would like to ask you as well. So, we'll bring those up. Lee, do you have a question for Karen to ponder on?
I do. I do. I do. I do. I do. Um, who's going to win the SEC? I mean, who's going to win the NCAA tournament? Uh,
I
no,
think I think you know the answer to that.
right? Yeah, so I won't go with that one. But this is more in line with your grandkids. I want you to tell us when you come back. You know, as you're going to retirement, what is it that you hope to um, be able to teach your grandchildren, or do you hope that they glean from you over, through retirement and over, the next 30 or 40 years?
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. We'll bring you right back up, Karen.
Okay, thanks.
Wow, when I tell you just dynamic conversation. It always inspires and amazes me as well, Lee, just the recurring theme about overcoming imposter syndrome and the nature
Mhm.
of believing in oneself, especially the work life balance, right? And just
Right.
a lot of the women that grace our stage all share that common theme of, the people who support and champion their success, but then also managing work life balance as a busy professional. What are some things that you've heard or that you see or feel as well that we've experienced from our
You know,
guests?
yeah, I agree with I agree with all of it. I know that the terminology, as Karen mentioned, imposter syndrome, really describes something that people have been feeling for many many years and just didn't necessarily have a term for.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see it as a consistent theme, I think as even as companies or people that are mentors or companies that putting together mentoring programs or people that are mentoring, as we think through that, it's something that to Karen's point, both men and women suffer through. Of course, men, we ain't gonna really talk about it,
Right.
but but it does seem to be something that's pervasive in both men and women. So really the question is, how do you help people deal with it uh,
Mm-hmm.
and get over that imposter syndrome? And so I think
Yeah.
that's something that's a question for the ages. I know Ebony talked about that, and others
Yeah.
have talked about it. So.
And I think a lot of it has to do with us seeing more women in the role, right? And I think that as we continue to break those barriers to ascend and take on roles, no pun
Mhm.
intended, but
Right.
to do that and climb, the visible examples that we have then become the faces of what you know and believe is possible. You know, Karen is definitely a trailblazer in this space, and the ability to amass what she has is phenomenal.
Mhm. Yeah, and to grow up an organization from 900 million to 4 billion, it ain't too bad.
Exactly,
Yeah, plus all the
exactly.
other things that she was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
To her point where she talked about looking for people that have capabilities and the ability to do well.
Yep.
Definitely, they saw something in her that got that that allowed them to open up and have her in a position that not many women feel, and she's obviously done very very well. So.
Fantastic. Well, if you guys are tuning in, definitely make sure that you go back and catch the replay. But in the meantime, if you have questions for Karen, please leave them in the chat function. When we bring her back up, we'll be sure to ask them. Again, be sure to like us and follow us. Follow us on Facebook as well as YouTube, www.youtube.com/at Women with Grit. Or you can reach us on our website, www.womenwithgrit.com, or Facebook, which is www.facebook.com/exceptional Women with Grit. So let's bring back up our guest, shall we?
Let's do it.
Hi, Karen.
Okay,
Welcome back.
thank you.
Hello. What's your favorite restaurant to eat at in Tullahoma?
In Tullahoma,
Yes.
probably a Meals or Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of choices in Tullahoma. I thought you were going to ask Nashville.
No, that would have been too. Well, I would say that Nashville would be easy, but it could be complicated because we have so many more restaurants here now than we
You're
did.
right.
But
It's
we'll
hard
go
to
with that. What's your favorite Nashville restaurant?
Um, I really like um, Fifth and Taylor, and
Okay,
I,
yeah.
and I really like. Well, I could just go on and on. Eddie B, Bar Taco, just on and on. There's a lot.
Just no-
Depends
Yep,
on what
no,
mood you're in, fancy or casual. Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, no shortage of great restaurants. But meals, what type of food does a meal serve?
He's from France, and he actually is sort of a gourmet French cook, believe it or not, and he does a
Dang it,
nice
in
job.
Tullahoma.
hmm Come down and we'll go to lunch sometime.
Okay, all right. That's a plan. That's a plan. All right. So let's get back to the question.
Grandchildren, I think, is what you
Yes.
said.
Yep. Just before the break. Yep.
So I would hope that my grandchildren would look at me as somebody that is um, a hard worker, tough, but loving. And my real goal is that they look at me as a really good cook, like my mother appeared to my children. That's the kind of grandmother I would like for them to look at me and say, "Oh, let's go to." They call me Cece, so let's go to Cece's house and have a good Cece meal. So
Okay, cool. And what's their
So,
favorite meal to cook for them?
yep, I was just about to ask that.
well, my whole cookbook that we put together of my mother's very
Oh,
southern, old-fashioned recipes that is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Nothing's measured, but they really like. She would cook this, bake this whole chicken, and then cook noodles to go. It sounds weird, I know, but cook noodles with lots of butter and chicken broth and salt and pepper,
mm,
and it,
Mm.
kids love it. Adults
oh,
love it. It's really bad for you though because it's got so much pasta in it.
okay. It sounds really good.
Mhm.
It's a very comfort food type thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Awesome. Well, we've got a couple of questions from our guest if we can bring them on screen. So, we got a question from Sharonda Scott, and she said, Karen, what do you have in the works for credit union and its members?
Well, we have a lot in the works. Obviously, we're going to have a new CEO shortly. We have been through a number of things that are kind of behind the scenes. Some of them have member visibility, but we went through a home banking conversion to try to bring in more features with that. We did that last summer. We're going through a card conversion right now, which should bring more features. And we're also looking at continuing to add features to what we already have, and then also new branches. We still think that members want branches. They might not want to go to them as frequently as they used to, but they like to know they're there. So we recently opened one in Lebanon, and are currently have plans for looking for a couple more maybe.
Awesome.
Yeah, and your branches, I mean, you all are utilizing technology with your branches, which seems to probably allow you to have a smaller footprint as you
Yes,
open up these new branches.
absolutely. We were probably the first in at least Middle Tennessee to offer what we call interactive teller machines. And
Mhm.
so that means we didn't have to have a teller line in a lot of our branches. And we have a back office teller center here in Tullahoma that basically runs the teller function for all of our branches throughout Middle Tennessee, except for a few that have a teller line inside now, and that allows for extended hours and it allows for consistent service and really served us well in the pandemic when we could make use of a smaller group of people than we needed to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll bring up the next question, which is by Laurinette Ford. She said, what has been your most challenging experience in your role as CEO?
You know, I would say my most challenging, well, there's been a couple, there's been several when I think about it. One is when I got the CEO position, we were in the midst of a failed computer conversion at that time. And I had to jump in with both feet and make the decision to basically back off at that time. And we waited and did it later. Building our headquarters building was a very challenging thing. It's been something I'm really proud of, but it was very challenging at the time. And I will say, leading an organization through the pandemic and all the complications that came with that whether it's employee shortages, whether it was all the political things around mask and immunizations and those kinds of things. I would say leading an organization that we feel like was, a necessary organization for our members to be up and running all the time so they have full confidence in getting their running up. I would say that was probably the most challenging time.
Really good questions.
Yeah, you do have good questions.
Okay, we have another question by Sharonda Scott. Sharonda asked, what are some motivational moments that really encourage you to stick with your position?
Um, I would say, um, working for 9 people, working for a board was really a challenging thing to learn, and not and when you learn how to work with the board, that board's ever changing. So the personalities that you work with and you work for are always challenging, are always changing, and so you have to know how different people want to be communicated with, etc. I think some of those moments have just been talking to some of my board members that really can give good advice when times get tough and you need a little boost. And so I'm really appreciative of the boards I've had over the past years who have been willing to provide me with expertise, support me through some tough decisions, and help guide the credit union in need.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Karen. The ability to talk to those who can give us solid advice. And speaking of which, what advice would you give to women or individuals around the world that continue to seek opportunities to thrive in their careers and in life?
I would say a lot of what we've already talked about probably is that to find you a mentor or mentors, um, go outside your comfort zone. If you've made it up to a certain level, there's a quote I've read that makes sure you send that, if you've made it up to this ceiling or whatever, make sure you send the elevator back down so that it's ready for the next generation. And I say, and I add to that that our daughters and our granddaughters will appreciate that. So whatever level you make it to, make sure you put that hand back down and pull somebody else up with you and give them an edge. I think that's really important. So that's maybe how I would answer that question.
Thanks for answering the questions. Again, really good questions. And everyone out there, if you have more questions, send them in. We're not quite out of time, but we don't want to run out of time and you still have a question. So get your questions in. Make sure you're liking and sharing with your friends. This is a phenomenal conversation with Caren Gabriel, President and CEO of Send Federal Credit Union. So this is a light question. Outside of basketball or outside of sports, what does Karen like to do for fun?
Karen likes to go to the beach
Okay.
and, with a good book and eat seafood and do nothing else. I really like, that's what I like to do when I go to the beach, is to just sit on the beach and look at the water and smell those smells and hear the sounds. And to me, that's true relaxation.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's a lot of fun. But I do like
Yeah.
to go to sporting events too. I like to watch sports on TV. I think March Madness is a fun time of year, even if Alabama's not in it. So
Yeah. It's easy to say because y'all are looking good this year.
yeah, but we're usually no. This is unusual for us. We're usually not a basketball school, so
Well, that's a good point. I think The ACC has been a basketball conference. Of course, the Big East has been a basketball conference, but here lately, you're starting to see SEC teams or the schools, like I would say, really start investing in their basketball programs. The SEC has always been known for football, just like the Big Ten, but you actually really starting to see the SEC start investing in basketball. Now, on the other side of that, Kentucky's a SEC team, and they're out of the and they're a perennial Sweet 16, Final Four basketball team, and they're out, but they are doing better in football than they normally have. So, it definitely is interesting. I think you all are lucky to get Brandon Miller. But of course, his dad went to Alabama as well, so that I'm sure that helped with the recruiting.
Yeah, yeah. I think he must be a really good kid, so I'm proud to have him. He
Yes.
won't be gone next year. He'll probably be in the NBA.
Oh yeah, yeah. The credit union should be chasing him down as a client because he's gonna need a lot of banking relationships.
Yeah, that's for sure. One thing that I meant to say when we were talking about work-life balance, is it okay if I just
Yes,
elaborate on that?
yes,
A piece of advice I have on that because is that it also takes a village to for a woman to have a career like I've had, and then to also do a halfway decent job at being a mom. And I look at the village that I had, and it was my mother and father who I would call up at the drop of a hat and say, I've got a sick child, I've got a sick babysitter, can you come up here at the last minute? And then I had a couple of friends that were the moms of some of my children's friends. And they would take my children everywhere to dance, to sports, to church choir. If it wasn't for that whole village of people, I wouldn't have been as successful as I feel like I was in trying to balance that being a mom and being a good employee and CEO. So I would just encourage people to reach out because there are people out there that won't mind helping you.
There's the emphasis on the tribe. I love to hear it.
that's it's so true. So true with our crew. We definitely rely on our tribe and the village to really help out,
Mhm.
and it's I think it's even in addition to that, the people you get to choose who's in that tribe or who's in the village, and a lot of that base on what type of people they are, especially the adults. What type of influence will they have on your children, the commonalities of your morals, ethics, goals, and what you want your kids to learn. You want to make sure that's pretty consistent throughout your village. Because one thing we all know is our kids will listen to other people, listen to them
Yep.
tell them the same thing we tell them, and they say, "Oh yeah, mom, dad, guess what such and such told me."
Yep.
But I'll tell you, Lee, your kids aren't this old, but now that mine are in their 30s, they
Hmm.
do look back and say, "You were right, mom,"
Uh-huh.
uh, or "I think I'm becoming you, mom." I think it softens them a little bit.
Yeah, not, our kids aren't at the point where they're telling us we're right yet.
These days, yeah.
Mine has some work.
Yeah.
Well, Karen,
So,
we are.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Lee.
No, I was I was going to ask. You know, a lot of people when they get ready for retirement, they have a few things that they want to do. I know you like to read a book. Are you interested in writing a book or about your career or anything? I'm sure it would be, a bestseller. I'm not
Oh
giving
yeah,
you stuff to do in retirement, but
yeah. I never thought about that, but I do plan to continue on a couple of boards, a human neutral board for a couple of years. I really firmly believe in the credit union movement, so um,
Mhm.
uh, that will be enjoyable. I'll still probably be on the Nature Conservancy Board for a year or so, and also the Children's Hospital Advisory Board. So I'll look for maybe some board opportunities,
Hmm.
possibly some consulting opportunities. I've had a couple of people reach out to me about that. But my immediate plan after retirement is to not have a plan for a little while.
Hmm.
For the first time in 38 years, not to look at your email the very last thing before you turn the light off at night, and the very first thing you look at when you turn the light on in the morning. I want to see how that feels for a little while.
It sounds wonderful.
Hmm.
But I'm also a type A person, so I'm not sure how long I can do that without doing something else too. But looking
Right.
forward.
So, Karen, we are winding down. Believe it or not, the segment
Oh
is
wow.
going
Oh
by
wow.
so
It sure is.
fast, so fast. But before we do the wrap and the closeout and everything like that, do you have any final nuggets that you would like to leave with our guests, as well as tell us ways that they can connect with you further, or any products or services that you would like to promote?
Don't have any products and services to promote other than I truly believe in some of these boards that I serve on, like at the Children's Hospital and Nature Conservancy, etc. Um, I can give you my personal email address. It is, you're going to laugh at this, Lee. It's ccgbama,
Oh
BAMA,
wow.
79 at gmail.com. I would be happy to, to correspond with anyone regarding any advice I could give him. I'd be happy to do that. And then just see where life leads me in this next stage of life.
And your email was
Bam, seven
ccgbama79
at
at
gmail.com.
gmail.
Mm-hmm.
All right, hit her up. Hit her
All
up.
right.
Now, just keep in mind it may be, a couple months before she gets back to you because she's going to be on retirement.
That's
Uh,
right. I'm on the beach for a while.
yeah.
Thank you all for inviting me. I've looked at your list of guests, and very, very impressive women. And thank you for doing this for women. It's really important in talking about these things, and you all are doing good work. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for
Absolutely.
being transparent.
Yes.
I think we hear from our viewers all the time how impactful our guests have been, and so we're excited about that, and know that you will be very impactful and helpful as our guests. And we have men and women that are tuning in, and we hear from both, just how impactful and what they learn from our guests. So thank you. Congratulations on retirement, and good
Thank
luck
you.
in your retirement. Hope that you enjoy it. And of course, I look to, for us to continue to connect and stay in touch.
Sounds
Oh,
good.
and by the way, everyone, I know you all know about the table. Ascend Federal Credit Union one of our corporate award winner for the table, and just their commitment and Karen's commitment and leadership to looking at ways to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion at Ascend by through giving people opportunities and just showing up didn't go unrecognized. In February when we did our awards, they're one of our corporate award winners. So congratulations for that as well, Karen, and thank you for your leadership.
Anyway, that's a really important thing to talk about too. So the table does great work. I would encourage everybody to get involved with that.
Thank you.
And
All right.
before
Well,
we go, we've
okay.
got one more
Else?
question
Do we? Okay.
to bring to you from our viewer. We want to make sure that you don't Get him an email. We have an opportunity here. So LD Cisco says, as a CEO, I'm sure that you've had many obligations. Which strategies do you utilize to maintain your energy?
Well, I have had a really good assistant throughout the years that sometimes helps me with saying no to certain things because you can't do everything. That's for sure. So I would say my assistant has been helpful with that, and just um, as I've gone through the years of my career, I think I've been better at deciding what are the things I need to do and what are the things I need to eliminate just because there's not enough time to do all of it and do a good job at it. So that would that's probably the strategies I've used and would use.
Awesome. Thank you. And one more for
All right.
Bonica Harper. She says, you spoke about investing in your, you spoke about how Alabama invested in their team, but how does Caren invest in herself?
Oh,
Continuing
great,
education or similar?
great question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. I would say, you know, I had 2 degrees, so I didn't go for formal education after my law degree, but I went to, I just tried to immerse myself in different groups, in different situations, in different conferences, join different boards. Joining the CUNY Mutual Board introduced me to a whole new set of people. And while I think I bring something to that board table, I definitely have brought a lot from that board table. So serving on boards, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit boards, um, different conferences, anything you do like that, I think is makes you a continuous learner and invest. That way you can invest in yourself and in your future.
Awesome. Thank you. I think, let me just double check. I think that was all of the questions that we received again to our guests and viewers. Thank you all for your questions. And thank you so much, Caren, for your time this evening. We know you stayed at the office a little bit late to do this. And so we definitely appreciate the time that we have had with you this evening.
Thoroughly enjoyed it again.
Yes, indeed. All right, it's time for the patented wrap up by Sherelle Lands. Let's go.
All right. We got to patent that, right, Lee? I mean,
Yes.
all right. So, really quickly, I just want to give you guys a recap. But again, you do not want to miss this. Be sure to rewind this, replay this, send this to whoever you know that could utilize this information from this dynamic woman, Miss Caren Gabriel. She talked about how you have to be your biggest advocate for yourself. She talked about being able to muster up the confidence to pitch for herself, but that speaks even to every single one of us in the ability to have confidence in our abilities and be the best advocate and the best person to sell our strengths forward. Try to do things that instill more confidence in yourself. So she talked about doing those things that are uncomfortable, stepping outside of our norm and continuing to push even when it doesn't feel great so that we can continue to push beyond that. Asking yourself, do you have it in you? But then also following it up with the actions to do so. Also, recognizing that overcoming imposter syndrome is an ongoing journey, right? And it's about the process of evolution. Every round gets higher, but guess what? Being able to push yourself and step into the light as opposed to shying from it helps us to become more comfortable in those spaces that feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Step outside of your box. Raise your hand time and time again. Step forward and take those challenging assignments on. Be willing to find mentors wherever you are. And again, that is a recurring theme that we hear from our guests is the ability of cultivating the village and surrounding yourself with the right people who will champion your success, who will call you out as well, but then also those that will continue to give you opportunities to excel and be successful. You have to take risks in order to be successful, right? You won't find success within the space of your comfort zone. It's on the other side of discomfort, and it's pushing beyond that. She talked about legacy and the ability to fulfill the mission of the organization and hold to it. But what is your legacy, and what does that look like materialize? And then how do you set up the strategies and the steps to overcome it? Recognize that you can't do it alone, right? You can go but so far. But if you really want to create an impact that goes beyond yourself to impact your community, as well as those that are directly or even divinely connected to you, it's beyond the space and the realm of what you can do. Hire people that are smarter than you. So hire up and bring in the skill sets and things that you might need to help continue to push the organization forward. She talked about how work-life balance is so important. And it is so important for us to remember that as we're thriving, as we are continuing to push forward as women with grit, the nature of balancing it out and making sure that you take time and have those still moments where Caren talked about being on the beach and reading a book to really decompress. That is necessary as well. Rest is as important as our drive for success. So being able to do that as well. Look for people who have both capabilities and the ability to succeed and give them an opportunity to do so. Remain goal oriented, jump in with both feet forward, and trust your gut. Talk to those who can give you solid advice about your journey and those that give you constructive feedback along the way. Find your mentor, and as you ascend the stairs of success, don't forget to send the elevator back down. For our daughters and our granddaughters and those that come after will greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much, Caren. These are just a couple of the nuggets that I've grabbed. But again, we encourage our guests to listen in from the very top of this actual segment all the way through to this has been phenomenal and a dynamic time. So we say thank you, Caren, for gracing the stage of Women with Grit.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll see you all next week. Have an amazing week. We'll be right back here next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check us out on www.womenwithgrit.com. On Facebook, we're at Exceptional Women with Grit, and on YouTube, we are at Women with Grit. Have a wonderful night.
Everyone have an amazing week. Thank you.